So many movies, no time to watch them all. But Twig wants to see them, so we gave Drayfrjg a call. Now they're bringing on their friends, and together they will view these. So sit back and relax, it's Twig's Missing Movies.
Hello and welcome to Twig's Missing Movies, a show dedicated to watching the movies that Twig inexplicably hasn't seen. I'm your host Drayfrjg, and here is our cinematically clueless crow, Corvus Twig.
It's Corvus Twig and
Drayfrjg.
Drayfrjg.
You better not be mocking me.
I mean, slightly, but come on.
Bruh.
Look, you called me cinematically clueless, which I know it's been a few episodes since I pushed back on, but come on.
Right. I mean,
come on.
Would you say that you're confident in being able to identify movies or quotes from movies?
Okay, so we actually just had an Oscar quiz at work yesterday.
Okay.
And the fun committee sent out an email with 20 screenshots of Best Picture winners, and I was the only one in the entire company that got all 20 correct.
The defund committee?
The fun committee. I wish they were the defund.
I heard defund committee.
The fun committee.
But fun committee.
Yeah, the thing that HR does.
But what were the movies? What were the movies though?
So they were only movies that had won Best Pictures. Let's see, they had Driving Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump. Lawrence of Arabia.
Also easily identifiable.
Ben-Hur. Casablanca.
Okay. Those are a little bit more difficult, I would say.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Super hard, guys. Super hard. So do they send like stills from the movie?
Yeah, just a still from the movie.
Was it at least obscure scenes that may have been hard to identify, or was it like, here are the characters, take your guess?
I would say no. None of them were like small obscure things. It was pretty. I mean, hey, I'm still the only one in the office that got all 20 correct.
I mean, it's all thanks to your training here on the show.
Yes, because wait, actually, have we covered any Best Picture winners on this show? I don't think we have.
No, I don't think we have. No. Not for Best Picture. No.
Well, I mean, maybe I should.
I could be wrong.
I should make a list on the spreadsheet of all the Best Picture winners, and that I haven't seen, and we could go about and see if anybody wants to cover any of those. But God, everything before 1970 is just like.
For the Oscars, we should do.
You mean that this is the Oscars are tonight? I mean,
well, tonight. Really?
I mean, they're not tonight when we're recording this, but they're tonight for when people are watching this. People are actually tuning into Twig's Missing Movies instead of the Oscars, right? So thank you, everybody, for tuning into the only movie thing that actually matters, and not the stupid award show where people pat themselves on the back and award movies that shouldn't get it, and nominate a horribly transphobic movie for a lot of things when they shouldn't.
Wait, what movie got nominated?
Amelia Perez.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Don't. It's I've seen several transgender content creators give their thoughts on the movie, and they're like, it's a movie that presents itself as being pro-trans, but it falls under it falls into tropes, like a lot of anti-trans tropes, and like the idea that like, when a man transitions into a woman, that they're stuck on, like, they have the violent tendencies and they can never truly get rid of them, and bullshit like that, and that deep down they're still the same person inside. It's just like, and also like presents that, you want to get transgender surgery, well, all you got to do is just go to the doctor and they'll give it away like candy. And it's just like, presents the idea that doctors are super happy and willing to give trans affirming care, and it's super easy to get it, and all you have to do is ask, and they'll give you a million options, and not even
I would like one penis removal surgery, please.
Yeah, basically.
Like you're going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac.
There's a whole musical number in the movie about all the different trans affirming surgeries you can get, and like, it's just like, that's not seriously. Did they talk? Well, I mean, at least the main character who portrays the main transgender character is actually a trans woman. But like, did they ask any other trans person what transitioning is actually like? And it's not good. We don't stand Amelia Perez. Fuck that movie. If you want to, I mean, there's been the best. I mean, I know what I'm saying right now. There is one major Hollywood movie that was about the trans experience that was super popular and has huge cultural impact and is loved by many people.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
No. The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. You guys never picked up on it, that it's a trans allegory.
I mean, people didn't pick up on it in 1999 so much, but when they realized that both of the creators are transgender and
the two brothers both being trans women wasn't a dead giveaway.
Yeah, and then when you look back at The Matrix, I actually like The Matrix so much better looking at it through that lens than I used to.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it's a lot of things are allegory. A lot of things are metaphorical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of being able to find out what that lens is supposed to be that you're supposed to watch it through.
Yes, today, but when we're talking about the Oscars, obviously my favorite category is Best Animated Movie. And, there's one particular studio that has won the Oscar for Best Animated Films.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Studio Ghibli. And they are almost always nominated. I think Spirited Away is the only one that ever actually won.
It is.
But they are consistently nominated whenever a new movie comes out.
That is true.
But today we're watching one that came out well before the Best Animated Feature existed.
And that is Grave of the Fireflies.
Yes.
Released on April 16th, 1988. It was directed by Isao Takahata and produced by Toru Hara in conjunction with Studio Ghibli.
So this is not a Miyazaki movie.
It is not a Miyazaki movie. Which I think a lot of people always make the mistake of thinking that every Studio Ghibli movie is also a Miyazaki movie. Like, not obviously fans of Studio Ghibli do not make that mistake, but people who are not, maybe as well rooted in Studio Ghibli films always make that mistake, I find. Or almost always, think of it that way. It is based on an autobiographical book of similar name by Akiyuki Nosaka. It released with a whopping 1.7 billion yen in Japanese theaters, and has a 100% approval rating based on 47 reviews on Rotten Tomato with an aggregate score of 9.3 out of 10, and a 94 out of 100. Yeah, out of 46 reviews, and a 94 out of 100 on Metacritic. Unfortunately, every fact that I want to talk about with this movie would give away the plot of this movie, but from what we talked about in the inkling of the discussion that we had a few days ago, you actually probably know quite a lot about this movie, and I feel like it's one of those movies that has always existed and always gets talked about. So it's probably impossible to not know something about it, especially when you have a lot of fans like myself or our guest today, Gremlinbon, around you.
Yes, so it's one of those things where just having known a lot about Studio Ghibli, so saying what do I know about it? I know that it's in the final days of or immediately after World War II. I know that the main characters, their village was firebombed, and they're trying to have to go and find a new life, and their parents are not around. Although I don't know if their parents are dead or not. All I know is that they're not with their parents. Obviously, you watch Twigs Missing Movies, you know that there's going to be major spoilers, but I know at the end the little sister dies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just obviously there's a lot more to it than that. But those are basically the basics of what I know. World War II, firebombed village, two young people trying to find their way through life and reestablish their life, and in the end, the younger one dies. But I don't know for sure what happened with their parents. I don't know any of the in between, and I don't know how she dies. So
yeah. So you know the top bun and the bottom bun, but you don't know what that hamburger is made with.
yes, but probably a lot of onions.
A lot of onions because I'm gonna be crying.
Yes, I know that this is a very, very sad movie, but it's
a very
important movie, you know.
It's a very anti-war movie. If you cannot judge by anything that you just said, and it is very heavy. And we do warn people, if you watch this, do so in a state of mind where you know you can recover from it. Right? If you're already depressed and you're going to watch this movie, don't. Right? That's my warning for today. No, this is a movie that I've watched only a handful of times because it's so heavy. It deals with a lot of things from I can't even talk about it. I can't because you don't know the meat and potatoes, but you just know how it begins and ends.
I mean, my prediction is that I'm going to like this movie enough to put it in the top 2 tiers, but I might put it in the 3rd tier because it'd be like, this is an amazing movie. I never want to see it again.
Yeah, I never want to see it again.
There's some amazing movies that I like. Okay, I only saw Hereditary once. The horror movie. You only need to see it once. And I don't know if I ever want to see it again. But I still think it's a phenomenal movie. But sometimes movies are best enjoyed once.
and that's fine. Sometimes it just disturbs you right down to your core. Or it bothers you right down to a nerve, and you're like, I can't. That was a good nerve to hit, but I never want to hit that nerve ever again. Like having a fucked or botched root canal. So because I can't talk about literally anything without giving you enough to spoil it yourself, let's just roll right into why haven't you seen this movie, Twig?
You know what? This is probably one of my biggest blind spots, and I wonder if I've been avoiding
seen other Ghibli films.
Oh, I have seen many other. I'd say. I mean, I got the list. On the thing, but I mean, I've probably seen over half of them, and Ghibli movies range from pretty good to amazing. Actually, it's kind of funny. I think my least favorite Ghibli movie that I've seen is My Neighbor Totoro. It's cute, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just...
they each their own, right? To each their own.
Yeah. Whereas, like, my top ones are Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Mononoke, which is, I know, cliche, but probably cliche for a reason. They're really good.
I mean, that's valid. I mean, there's a reason why those ones are the ones that are referred to the most, right? It's because popularity isn't something that's determined to upset you, right? Popularity is something that's determined by a lot of people liking something. And being popular doesn't mean it's bad, right? You don't have to be like, if your favorite movie is a popular movie, it's not a bad thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Right?
Well, I mean, another one of my huge favorites that I think is the most underrated Studio Ghibli movie is Porco Rosso.
That, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, man. Porco Rosso. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He's a hero.
We need more anti-fascist...
we need more anti-fascist pigs. Literal pigs. No, I mean,
but yeah, this one, I guess it's just slipped by me. I think there's been, I don't know. It's like I'm actually really surprised I haven't seen it yet.
Every time I'm like, maybe you just never got in the mood, or maybe there was just never an opportunity to watch it. But I'm like, in the modern era, there's never not an opportunity to watch it, right? And I just like, okay, maybe it's a mood thing. I'm like, I don't know, because there's definitely probably times in his life where he's had the mental fortitude to handle it. Maybe he didn't want to handle it alone. So I mean, it's not like you didn't know the movie existed, right?
Yeah. No, I've known about it for probably, over 20 years. I've known about it probably when I first started watching Ghibli movies. Mononoke was my first Ghibli movie.
Oh, nice. I think mine was probably, I think it was House. I was at a girlfriend's house when we watched it. I think that was my first Ghibli movie.
They're good
memories. All right, so what are your predictions for the movie? Because you know how it starts, you know how it ends.
All right.
What are the meat and potatoes here?
Okay, so the thing is like I don't know what happened to their parents. It seems like a safe assumption that both of their parents are dead, but since I can't say that for sure, I'm going to put that as a prediction. Both of their parents are dead. I don't know that for sure, so I can put it. It's allowed. That's legal. I am going to say at some point the older brother gets a job working for a complete abusive jerk. Like, he needs to get a job just, it's like, hey, I need to do something, and so there's some guys like, fine, I'll give you a job, and so he's working and trying to do it, basically just working for a miserable asshole boss, but he has to do it just in order to survive. So I think that's going to happen at some point. I'm going to say at some point they meet up with a relative of theirs. I'm going to say distant relative. So it's not going to be like, well, I mean, by distant, I mean, it could be like aunt, uncle. I don't think grandparents, but, you know, somebody who's like in their extended family, that they end up meeting up with them and staying with them. Stay with them for a while. Let's see here. I feel like it's not going to be complete misery porn the entire time. Like, there's got to be some joy in this movie, right? But I'm trying to figure out, like, how that would manifest. I'm going to say the younger sibling has a happy attitude, and there will be scenes where she is happy and playing and having a good time, because it feels like there's got to be scenes like that. I don't know. It's like I don't know how that would manifest, but like it's hard to be detailed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to be detailed.
I'm going to just like, I don't know, is this during World War II or after World War II? Is this like,
are you asking me, or are you terminated for your
I'm
own?
thinking aloud.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to actually put that as my second prediction. The war is not yet over. So I'm going to say that this is like after firebombing campaigns, but the nukes have not dropped yet. And then in the end, my sixth one, I know the younger sibling dies, and so I guess there's kind of three ways it could go: from violence, from starvation, or from disease.
Okay.
And I'm going to predict little sister gets sick and dies of disease. That's going to be my guess. So that's six predictions. I don't know if they're good predictions or if you think I should expand on something a little bit more.
No, I think these are good. Yeah, these should be fine. There's six predictions.
All right. The seventh prediction, I'm gonna cry.
That can't be a prediction, Twig. You're gonna cry. I'm telling you now. The E green, easy. Next.
I need to make these a little bit bigger. Let's go 26. There we go. Can never seem to get the size of my font on this consistent. Anyway, yeah, 6 predictions, and so yeah, it's time to steel myself and face the sadness.
All right, everybody, when we come back,
we'll have watched
Grave of the Fireflies.
In some regions, it's called Grave of the Lightning Bugs.
Yeah. They're wrong.
We always call them Fireflies around here.
Yeah, no, I grew up playing.
If I eat enough Fireflies Will I start?
No,
growing?
you don't. No,
Oh.
I tried that as a kid.
Oh,
I used to
okay.
eat lightning bugs all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, when we come back, we'll have watched Grave with the Fireflies. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
We're back. Oh, we're back, and I don't have face tracking. Ah,
Oh no.
there we go. I'm back. ah. Well,
God.
last episode we watched an animated movie, and I began by asking, "Why did you do this to me?" And so I am now going to start this episode by saying, "Bon, why did you do this to me?"
I'm sorry.
It's a different.
Are
It
you?
was a different pain.
Are
though.
you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, Romeo and Juliet and Grave of the Fireflies both stirred emotions that hurt me, but very different emotions in a very, 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 very different way. Yeah. Wow. It's
Very powerful movie.
very,
Very,
very
Yes.
powerful movie. I mean,
Are you already crying, Bon?
No, I'm holding in some of my fun facts.
well, we
Your
do
fun
like
facts?
some fun
My
facts.
fun fact. There's a lot of interesting facts about this movie that people don't know, and it because of it getting overlooked so often.
Well, I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. But I mean,
Yeah.
the main thing that we do want to ask is why did you select this movie? What does this movie mean to you?
I selected this movie because I stumbled across this movie when I was very young, on the internet, and I probably watched this at an age I shouldn't have on my own. But it always hit me really hard because a lot of the times when you look at what's happened in the war and a lot of the way you're raised, you don't really see how it's affected people. And while this is very heavy of a movie and it's a very sad movie to watch, it kind of gives you insight to how people who got overlooked in the system, like orphan children, how they got overlooked and just had to live and kind of figure out how to get around all of these things, because there was a lot of kids that lost their families in World War II, and I feel like it's a very good movie to watch and learn your sympathy and empathy from. So I always try to get people to watch it. I know everyone's like, no, I don't want to watch it. It's sad and deep, and I think everyone should watch this movie at least once in their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like it's a war movie without any combat.
Yeah,
Well,
to a degree.
There's
to a degree.
okay.
There's
a
bomb
city
dropping.
bomb dropping is not combat. That is
Yes, it is.
combat implies two sides fighting against each other.
Nope.
Nobody was fighting those bombers. Those bombers were just bombing. Oh, combat to me feels like two sides fighting against each other. This was one side just... I mean, yeah, in the sense it's like America fighting against Japan, but, what I mean is, like, there wasn't, like, a battle. It was, just firebombing. And, like, God, how terrifying those... just, like... God, throughout the whole movie, just the constant air raid sirens or the sound of the firebombs dropping is just, like... the terror, it's horror. It's like this is in a sense a horror movie, but like
It is. It's very scary to watch, to see that side of a war that not a lot of people understand or see.
yeah, and it's kind of the true cost of war. It's the side of war that is the most prominent and most long lasting and effective, and it's just like, and these people had nothing to do with the decision to go to war or the reasons behind the war. They're just normal people trying to live their lives, and like, yeah, fucking sucks. Civilians get just because some powerful men want more power.
Yeah, basically.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what's the cause. The cause behind pretty much every single war. I'm trying to think of like a war that wouldn't be caused because deep down, it's a powerful man wants more power.
Pretty much. I mean, more power, more land.
Whether
legacy.
it's power by wealth, religious power, land power, it's just yeah. And
It's war is dumb.
war is so dumb, and you'd think after World War II, we as a world would have been like, hey, this shit sucks. Can we stop doing it? Can we just can we just have our world leaders just like get into the cage match and just how about you just fight each other? Fight each other.
Get in the cage.
Get in the cage match, Ginger, otherwise I'll make your kids do it.
I would love to see Zelensky and Trump get into a cage match.
We all know what would happen there.
Yeah. But I just I like to keep politics out of the show, but I mean this is a thing about war, and war is politics. You can't separate war and politics. You can't.
No, you can't. You can't. In this case, you can't separate the two, unfortunately.
And that's the thing is just like, people across the world. It's like this is a movie about early 1940s Japan, but this is the stuff that these people are going through. There are people going through today. It's been
100 years and very little has changed.
War never changes. It's it's kind of a depressing topic, and it's painful to think about. And oh god, I was just someone. I mean, obviously it's on animation, but someone was saying it's like, I wonder what life was like, and I watch Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I wonder what life was like for like the average Cardassian citizen, somebody who just lived on Cardassia, living a normal life, and like, what did they think of their rulers, enslaving the Bajorans and committing all these war crimes, and how did they feel as the military-industrial complex kept getting bigger and bigger? And then I realized, oh, now I know how they would have felt. Probably
it's
felt
themes you see everywhere
against it, but feel powerless to stop it, and and just. All you can do is just hope is that it gets over with quickly and things get. I just hope I'm never in the situation that these two are in. I mean, obviously, as an adult, I would never be, but it's just.
I don't want to be. I mean, like that's kind of the thing with this, right? Is that it's especially tougher on an orphan too, right? But like adults very much end up in situations like this too, where they don't have anything. They might need a little bit more care than normal, right? Like. Almost this doesn't just happen, It's a series of events and choices that have all culminated to that point. No one wants to be homeless.
Yeah, I mean, he was stealing, but he was stealing food to survive. It's just like, with the scene that we just had on the screenshots there. It's just like, yeah, he became a thief, but is going into your local Best Buy and stealing, a computer part that you want. That's pretty different from, hey, me and my sister are starving to death and we literally need to take this food or we're going to die.
It's and that really broke my heart. It always breaks my heart watching this movie, like seeing children treated that way. Like, I know everyone was on hard times in the war. But even that man, like we see in the movie, who literally beats the shit out of him for catching him steal, despite the little girl crying and screaming in the background. Like, it really breaks your heart, because this story is it's semi-based on a true story and the experience of someone who lived through this. And that's what I was trying to remind people is like, this isn't made up. This isn't fictional. This is something that people lived through, and children died, and children had to steal and were left alone to fend for themselves. And there are people who, while they weren't doing amazing, were better off, that were still very much, this is mine, I'm not going to help you. Like, if you see a child sick and they're starving and full of rashes, are you going to turn them away? You're going to beat them for stealing some potatoes?
There's a myriad of like angles and intersections that also need to be talked about with that too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
In Japanese society at the time, it's not honorable to steal now, but like to steal in any form at any age was equivalent all across the board. On top of the fact that if you're like the man of the house, you're the fucking man of the house, right? Doesn't matter what age you are, you're expected to do your job and do an honest work. Like
I'm gonna get a little, so like every time I try to discuss this movie with someone, they always bring up how he left his aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he stay with his aunt? Why didn't he stay with her? Why didn't he go back to her? Because he was the man of the house. Mm-hmm. He was taking care of his sick mother. Let's remember, his mother had a heart condition. And he was taking care of his little sister. And when he went to someone else's home and he was being treated the way he was, and his sister was being treated the way she was, he couldn't stand for that anymore. And he was used to being the man of the house that took care of the family. And that's why he left. And yes, it's a point of pride for him, but like, he was the man of the home and he was being mistreated. His sister was being mistreated. They were being, food was taken away. They were being emotionally abused. And that's why he felt he was better off. And yeah, maybe it's not a good decision, but I feel like a lot of people just refuse to understand that. He was the man of the house. He had to do what he had to do to keep his sister alive and take care of her and provide a loving home for her.
I may have missed this part, but like at several points, the aunt had suggested he get a job, right? And was it that
No.
I missed the line?
So it might have been a translation issue, but from what I remember, she doesn't tell him to get a job because at his age, I'm not sure if he could. But on several occasions, she is insulting and berating him because he's not working, because he's a child and everything, that he doesn't deserve food and he doesn't deserve this because he's not working.
Yeah. Okay.
And at that time, too, like, the only jobs that were really available at this time during the World War II, especially with the bombings and everything going on, was working for the government. And I don't think children his age were able to work for the government.
Yeah, how old is Seta in this? I get the idea that he's like 14 would be my guess.
He's 14 years old, yeah. And his sister's 4 years old.
Yeah, and obviously there's parts where like, oh yeah, this person, there's not a whole lot of jobs anyway in the town. There's not a whole lot that they can do for food in the town either. Because everyone's, still recovering from being bombed.
And, too, with, the pride with the aunt and everything, she was directly benefiting from housing a military kid. 2 military children.
Mm-hmm.
It's said at the beginning when they first arrived there that, oh, all the military families get spoiled. You're military kids, so you get spoiled. And they sold his mother's things, who had died, to help feed her family. And she was honestly insanely ungrateful. Like, you can say she was grateful in the beginning, but that she was making comments towards them and treating them like shit, despite the fact that their father being in the military was directly benefiting her for a portion of time.
Yeah, I mean, she was acting like they were the ones mooching off of her when, in reality, it was definitely the other way around. Like, he's like, hey, do we still have some of those pickled plums? She's like, no, they're all gone. We ate them all. And it's just like, so that implies that
giant jar
that Seta and Satsuki didn't get too many of those pickled plums, and yeah, and then the bag of rice that was bought from the selling of the kimonos, like, oh no, you don't get the rice balls or the patties or anything like that. You can have some gruel. Enjoy your gruel, then be happy for it because we're giving you. It's just like yeah, she was not a nice lady, but like,
no.
At the same time, it's just like, I don't condone what she did. I don't think she's a good person at all, but you almost start to understand where it's just like everybody's in such desperate times that like when you are in that kind of desperation, you do things that maybe you normally wouldn't do, and you start violating your own moral codes just because you go into survival mode, and unfortunately, that can end up causing even good people to turn into monsters,
So, I do want to point out with her, she was just a shit human because both her husband and her daughter worked in benefit to the country. And while they weren't getting things like butter and pickled plums and white rice, they still were receiving pretty decent food for their family because they managed to feed 2 additional mouths with the family.
True.
But this wasn't, it was just she only quote unquote love them until being there benefited, like while they benefited her, and then eventually, you know, she stopped caring because them being there didn't benefit her in another way.
Yeah, and she was kind of petty. It's just like, hey, you need to start making your own food and cooking your own food. Next scene, that little shit, he bought his own oven and started cooking. It's like he did exactly what you told him to do. What do you expect him to do? Not eat? And it's like,
and she didn't care, because like when they left the house and she had no idea where they were going, she was like, oh, well, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like, see you later, have fun.
I don't like her.
Yeah, that aunt reminded me of, like, kind of hit a little close to home for me, in a way or two. But, like, I don't know. War is not easy. War is not a good time. But even under extraordinary circumstances, she had so much going on for herself that the idea, like, that she might have to struggle. Sorry, I missed what I started. I think another point too is that she was definitely of a cast that was like right on the precipice of being no better off than they were, right? And so her allowances from her children working, being in the military, being in the government, kept her from basically being no worse off than her sister was, dead or bombed to shit and back. And that fear of losing that drove her to be an awful person, and like even further, which is something that we see in any country at war. Right, there's always a cast that's like right at the cusp of being no better off than the poor people who are, sacrificing themselves out there.
Okay, sorry to get political again, but you talked about people being on the cusp of poverty and destitution, turning and becoming horrible people. Wonder if that might explain why American politics has gotten so bad, because with the medical system and rent rising and the vast majority of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, suddenly maybe they start becoming more terrible people and supporting horrible policies, because that kind of desperation is turning, and that kind of long-term desperation is turning a lot of Americans into shitty people.
I mean, no one's poor. Everyone's just a temporarily embarrassed billionaire, right? That's basically the mentality,
Yeah, but I think people are terrified of losing their home, losing their health care, that they'll just lash out against anybody.
Doesn't matter.
And then, like Asasio says, and they end up supporting the people whose fault it is in the first place.
Yep, because you just come in and say I'm your savior. It's easy. But we're getting off topic a little bit.
Kind of, not really. I mean, it's still tied into the themes of the movie, But
I don't want to go down too far this rabbit hole.
We were watching in the Discord watch along. We were watching with Krotar Ray, our guest from 2 episodes ago, and she was pointing out how many tiny little subtle things there are in this movie that are just hints at how bad things are getting. Things like, oh, hell, those people, we can't have soy sauce, so they're just getting ocean water to make their food salty. Oh, the rice cooker, they have barley in it. Stuff like that.
There's a lot of things throughout the film that point to it, and a lot of little details in the film that a lot of people kind of don't see. That are so important to understand the state of everything in the film. And one of my favorite unconfirmed, it's kind of unconfirmed, it's kind of confirmed, one of my favorite details is that at the beginning of the film, there's 2 points in the film where Seita actually does look directly at the camera. And it's a theory, and I don't know if this was ever confirmed, because this was something back ago that I read, that it is him telling the story directly to the viewer, because at the end we pan over Japan, modern day Japan, and him and his sister are spirits on the hill where he cremated her. And it's like we're actually, we're in modern day Japan, and he's a spirit we've come across. I really like that detail in the movie. I don't know if it's true or not, but I like to think of it as is, because that shot of modern Japan and then them looking at the camera briefly, it's like, oh. Pretty sure it's the hill that she's cremated on.
I think
it's
it
very
is.
close to, it's something I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure on.
I mean, the whole thing with Satsuki and Satsuko. Wait, Satsuki or Satsuko? I forget.
Setsuko is the sister, and then Saita is the
Setsuko, that's right. Just like the whole time, I knew she was gonna die, and I just start seeing her slowly degrading and getting worse health, and it's just like, it's.
And she was sick from what breaks her heart too. She was sick from something that was easily treatable.
Yeah. Just needed.
And just when they begged for help, there was no one to help them, and that always made me cry. When people start, the point of the movie where they start turning them away more and more, and people stop caring about them because they're dirty and homeless. It just.
Yeah, like like when Seita at the beginning of the movie, when he's just homeless in the city, and it's just like, God, you'd think you would. I mean, I guess you wouldn't think, but you would hope that like there would be places like, hey, are you under 18? Are you an orphan? Come with us. We'll at least shelter and feed you and help you get work. But no, he just was completely abandoned by everyone. All he needed was just a little help. He was a good kid. He was a hard worker, and all they needed was somebody to just put him to work and give him food and shelter, and he would have probably thrived. But instead, everyone just turned their back on him, and he ends up suffering another, tragic death himself that was completely unnecessary and preventable. But I think they mentioned that the Americans are coming, so it's just like it really couldn't have been that long afterwards. And you almost wonder, was Setsuko...
Yeah, so it wouldn't have been, because the fire bombings happened, and then Japan was bombed.
Yeah, because there's the scene where they talk about no unconditional surrender. So it's just like, okay, so that scene was obviously soon after the bombs dropping. And that
because the fire bombings of Tokyo were in March of 1945. And then they were bombed in August. And so shortly after is when, America started showing up in Japan, and that's like the that whole period of time where Japan changed very quickly because of that. So it would have been it was not that long after the war ended that he died.
Yeah.
Which is like he kind of died from a broken heart.
Actually, I think I remember he said September. I think he said it was in September.
Yeah, so it would have been a month after the war ended.
Yeah, which means that was a month. He was dead a month after Setsuko died. Like, he went downhill that quickly. But I guess he quickly went through the food. He spent the last of his money to get the food, and he probably ate it all quickly, but also probably just...
It's actually, I think it shows that it just sat and rotted in the cave. If you watch the end, like the watermelon rotted, there's dishes that are sitting, like the meal he made for her and she died. I don't think he actually ever consumed the food he bought for her. It's implied he just gave up. Yeah. Which, he lost everything, his mom died, and he was very strong after that, considering.
Setsuko gave him purpose. His purpose in life was... I think
Setsuko gave him purpose, but he also had the thought of his dad coming back.
And then finding out that the entire Navy was dead.
At the bottom of the ocean, yeah.
Yeah, his entire family gone. Jeez.
So, it's just implied that, essentially he gave up, which anybody, honestly, he's a child, he's 14 years old, and he lost his entire family in the span of a few months, and... It was slow and painfully for each of them. That would cause anyone to give up. No.
Not a happy movie.
I'm sorry for creating such a depressing episode of Twigs missing movies.
But one thing I wanted to bring up is that when we watched this, I watched this movie yesterday, but I actually did a Studio Ghibli double feature, and the other movie I watched was a movie called Pompoko. And the thing is that I felt like both of the movies, obviously very different movies, but Pompoko also felt like, hey, it was a movie about a time of significant change in Japan. And I'm glad I watched them in the order I did, because it's just like, okay, so we see how Japan has changed because of World War II. Now we get to see how Japan has changed due to capitalism.
Yeah.
And I just thought that movie was very interesting. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it had that same sense of feeling on it where it's just like, I didn't know much about Pompoko before seeing it, but you're seeing all these raccoons and we're seeing them, and their goal is to save the forest and that they need to stop all this development. And the whole time you're like, oh, there's absolutely no way this movie ends good. There's no way they win. And so the whole movie, you're just kind of watching people slowly lose more and more and more until the end where, you know, some of them die, some of them, you know, obviously there's better endings for a lot of the characters in Pompoko than this one, but either way, you're seeing the slow destruction of somebody's way of life.
Yeah.
And so the two movies, I think, had many similar themes. Pompoko, obviously a bit happier and cuter and less devastating of a movie, but I'm really glad I watched both of them back to back, and I just wanted to touch on it a little bit because I really liked Pompoko. I was gonna say both movies, but I can't tell you if I liked it or not yet.
Yeah. Would,
yeah, you can't say anything yet. I don't know if you guys do this.
As soon as they hear your opinion, everyone knows this is true.
But yes, as that we do know the true double feature, as Cannon Fodder and Hasi are saying, and as we discussed a little bit yesterday during the watch along, is that this movie was shown as a double feature with My Neighbor Totoro, and I can't like on the spectrum of Ghibli movies, I can't imagine two movies further apart on that spectrum.
Well, this was like the only reason Totoro actually came to be. Without Grave of the Fireflies, Totoro wouldn't have had a run in theaters or been produced. So we gotta thank this super depressing movie that makes us cry for having Totoro. But it's like a huge reason why people didn't really talk about this movie too much because it got overseen by Totoro.
I mean, I said in the pre-show, it's like Totoro's probably the least favorite of the Ghibli movies I've seen, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I still liked My Neighbor Totoro. It was very cute and fun.
I got to see it. There's a thing that theaters around here were doing years ago where they were playing a bunch of Ghibli movies over the years, and I actually decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go see My Neighbor Totoro in theaters because I think, like, they had Howl's Moving Castle, which is my personal favorite Ghibli movie ever. But I was like, I haven't really seen Totoro since I was a kid, so I saw it in theaters, and it was a different experience seeing it in theaters. It gave it a different charm.
I imagine, yeah. It's just something about being in the theater, and yeah.
It's nice if you know, like, simple child level Japanese as well, because My Neighbor Totoro through and through at the base of it is a children's film, like a pure, it's like Peppa Pig level, right?
Yeah.
So you can pick up a few things if you're learning Japanese if you watch My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's very simple Japanese, the entire movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It was originally made. That's why I think he had such a hard time getting it done. It's such a child. It's literally a child's movie. It's cute though. It's cute. It's simple cute. For the aesthetic alone and the animation. The animation's beautiful, and it's the same with this movie where there's just so much loving care put into the animation.
Oh, I mean, we haven't really touched on that much, but this movie is absolutely beautiful. The animation.
Oh, it's my favorite era of Ghibli animation, actually. There's different eras of it that you can see, but my favorite era is when they animate folds, like creases and wrinkles in the face.
What, like almost like the ugly face, but like, you know.
Yes, like Ghibli
but the thing is,
makes,
when people
like, the
are
true faces.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when, you know, there's a reason it's called ugly crying. When you have certain emotions, your face gets distorted and you don't look good and right. And this, the way that it captures that, and
this fell in that era of Ghibli animation that did that, because you lose that a lot in the newer ones. Like, there's still faces that are made that are, like, you know, ugly faces, But they started moving away from that style of animation. I think once the 90s hit, you see it less and less with Ghibli films. So I very much love this era. I love watching Ghibli films from this era because they just do such a good job conveying emotions. Which this movie does an amazing job making you feel the pain and emotion and the happiness. Like when he finds the candy and he has a piece of candy, or when he eats a pickled plum, you can see the feeling and the innocence from him.
It's actually touches on another point. Like it's like, yeah, we see this little descent into destitution and eventual death, right? But you also see the loss of innocence throughout the entirety of it. You know, and
you briefly see that innocence return after he steals the kimonos, and that's something you haven't seen him do in a while. And then his sister dies, and you never see him. Obviously, you never see him happy again after that. He loses that innocence.
It's quite devastating watching any child lose their innocence throughout any reason, but it's especially bad when it's not anything that's, you know, fixable.
Yeah.
Or rather, when it is something that is fixable if it weren't for other environmental factors.
Yeah.
Oh, I know the movie's almost done at that point, Hasio, but you still see a passage of time after his sister dies, where he cremates her, and you see him existing. And you never see emotion on his face again after that.
Nope.
It's very small details, and that's what I really like about Ghibli films that touch on darker subjects, is there's so many small, quiet details to tell a story inside a story.
Yeah. Bon, you said you had a few other interesting facts about this, or anything else you wanted to bring up?
There was one interesting fact that I had actually learned recently. It was actually after we planned to watch this movie. One of the animators on the film was actually one of the only surviving. One of the animators on the film was actually in the fire bombings of Tokyo.
Oof.
Yeah. He's passed away as of late, but he was one of the only surviving animators that were in the Tokyo fire bombings.
That's so insane.
What? The fire bombings, it's just like, we always talk about the nuclear explosions, but more people were killed and more structures were destroyed in the firebombing than the nukes. It's
Yeah.
I don't know about the stats on that one.
Yeah. Another good film in connection to watch this if you want to see more about how children and families were affected, though this one I do recommend. I am going to put a warning on it, just Barefoot Gen. It's about a kid surviving the nuclear bombings.
Oof.
It's very disturbing. I don't recommend going into it on your own. It's more disturbing and upsetting than this movie. But it's also another interesting story about a kid surviving. If anyone else wants to be depressed again. I know a lot of depressing films. No one's gonna trust me after this.
Hey, that's my secret, Bon. I'm always
You're
depressed.
always depressed. Yeah. I have a habit of seeking out these films because I find, and this is going to sound awful, but when I really need a reason to cry to clear my head, I have like a list of films I go to watch.
Well, I mean,
this is definitely on it.
Honestly, a movie like this, it's like sometimes it just, it reminds you of your humanity. Or your chromanity.
Chromanity.
I think it's important to watch films like this because I know, like, obviously we have a very depressing world, but I think it's very important to watch these films like this to remind yourself of what you do have. You may be aware of what's going on in the world, but when you always consume media that doesn't really touch on these things, I don't think you really learn to, like, appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Thank God I have things like friends, family, and Taco Bell.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have Taco Bell.
Taco Bell important.
Taco Bell is important.
Corvidity. Thank you. Can of fodder. That is a better word than I use. I only understand the situation people were in when I saw Rainbow Dash in it. Yes. God, I love that meme.
Can't take you fucking anywhere, can we?
No.
Mm.
No. Well, what more can we really say about this movie? Obviously, we've spoiled it, but yeah, it doesn't. This is a movie where you could go into it knowing every single thing that happens, but that doesn't convey the emotion and the detail and everything that you see that we talked about. So even if you're watching or listening to this without having seen the movie, you should still see it.
100%. Please watch it at least once. Don't
Please
listen to people online. Like, just watch it. I mean, listen to us. Listen to us, people online, because we're telling you to watch it. But please go watch it. It's a film I frequently see, specifically Americans tell people not to watch, because a lot of people are like, oh, World War II Japan, bad guys, don't. It's sympathizing. I think it's still important to watch.
I mean, Japan, as the country, the government, were bad guys doing bad things, but the people in government are not the people of the country, you know.
I think the moment we stop understanding that even in war, when there's a bad guy and a good guy, there are still people that are a part of the war despite not wanting to be a part of the war. And the minute we stop understanding that, I think, is the minute that we stop understanding humanity and how life is important. I'm not saying sympathize with bad guys, I'm saying understand that there are people on both sides.
Very fine people on both sides. Bond.
There are people, innocent people on both sides that don't want to be part of the war. You don't agree with what your country does in other countries, right?
Look, I mean, America has a long history of people protesting against the warful actions. You know, yeah, it's...
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We didn't have hippies for no reason.
Yeah.
We didn't have drug prohibitions because of the hippies for no reason.
Yeah.
Legalize it. There's several its that I think should be legalized. Yay.
Very much so. But that's not what we're here to discuss, though.
No.
I think we've kind of beaten this topic to death in a way or two. So Twig, what did you like about the movie?
I liked that I had predictions about
it?
I liked that I had predictions about the movie that we need to do before we get to that part.
Oh god, yeah, I forgot about predictions. Bruh. I was so wrapped up in conversation.
Such depressing.
Yeah.
All right, so you can go ahead and you can just
all right.
yellow
So
that first one.
Yellow.
And then green the rest.
Wait, no, because brother didn't get a job.
So both of their parents are dead. I mean, by the end of the movie.
I yellow that one. Because
that one.
Because he spends most of the movie thinking his dad.
But they technically aren't confirmed. Neither is confirmed dead till the very end of the movie, right? Like the mom dies mid-movie, and then the father's confirmed dead. Not even like actually confirmed dead, just that the entire fleet sunk, right? That they don't account for here about the myriad of Japanese prisoners of war that they got from those ships too, right?
Yeah, and it's yellow. It's yellow just for the fact that like
he thinks his dad is alive out there, and so
yeah, and that's what part of the reason why he kept going, because he was like, I need to take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's just straight up red. That never happened. Yep. They do meet up with a relative who they stay with, so I got that one. And yeah, I would say she did have a happy attitude, and there are scenes where she's happy and having a good time, you know. And then little sister gets sick and dies of disease. Well, I'm afraid I kind of want to give myself a red on this one, because technically malnutrition is a disease and is sickness.
You were correct. She is sick.
But it's a yellow at best, then, because I kind of said she dies of disease, she dies of violence, or she dies of starvation. And I feel like she kind of Well, I guess
she had typhus fever.
So I guess she was sick. She died of both disease and starvation.
Twig.
What?
Give yourself a green. She died from typhus fever.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had diarrhea and fever and rash and everything from the lice. She malnutrition was they said malnutrition because the doctor didn't care about the orphan children that probably couldn't pay their medical bills. That's why he's like, no, she just needs to eat food. Get her food. And he didn't. That's why it was like a fit. That was why that's another like underlying tone to the movie. It's failure of the system. You know, very imperial country, very like, we're Japanese, we take care of our people, we're strong. But his sister in the end was abandoned and ignored when she did need help. Right?
Yep.
Are you okay? What the heck is wrong with
I was
your
drinking
mouth?
water. I was drinking water. I was thirsty.
It looked like you were making fun of me while I was talking.
No. If anything, I was nodding in agreement with the words you were saying.
Yeah.
Bon, you are very wise. I like your wise words.
I am a wise squid sometimes.
Sometimes. Look, we all get to be dumbasses sometimes, but
We all get to be a little stupid sometimes.
Ow! Okay, now it's just
Big bonks in chat.
Okay, I do gotta call out Hasio's comment. That's really funny. She didn't die of typhus fever. She died with typhus fever.
Bruh.
Okay. Yes. Now we can get to the tier list. Whoops. The tier list. we saw a little of my own stream there for a second.
Whoops.
Yeah. Infinite regression.
Corvus. He's gone. Corvus Pollock.
No.
All right. So, I mean, pretty obvious. Yes, I liked this movie, and I'm glad I watched it. I think that was pretty obvious from the get-go. That's not going to be a surprise to anybody. Like if I'd said no, I didn't like this movie, I think you two would have been very surprised and befuddled, right?
That's one word for it.
Yeah, I would be. To say that you didn't like it after I heard the wet sobs coming out throughout the entire movie.
I actually didn't really have sobs or crying, but
someone was sobbing.
That was me.
That was
And then
no,
Hasio. I was actually Hasio crying.
Yeah, I was definitely choked up. I remember saying something at the end of the movie, I don't like this. Yeah. But it's just like, yeah, I was choked up, and if I had allowed myself to, I probably could have really started crying, but I didn't actually cry, but I mean, like, it was like on the verge of it, choking up and feeling the feels hard, so, you know. But so it's just like I was saying at the beginning, is like, is this going to be a movie that I think is really good, but I don't want to ever watch it again? I actually think I could see myself seeing this again sometime. Not for a while.
Yeah, it's definitely you got to have some breathers in between it of a few years.
I think I would like to watch it with somebody who is watching it for the first time themselves. Whether that be a partner or, you know, my sister has children. Maybe at some point I'll be like, hey, I think
you want to get traumatized to my nieces?
Can I traumatize your kids?
Well, right now they're 10, 11, and 13, so...
perfect age to show them.
Perfect age for it.
Actually, no, not joking at all. That's a good age group to show this movie.
So the worth watching once, it's definitely higher than that, because I think I'll say again. Honestly, I think this is such a beautiful movie. This has got to go top tier. I think I like Klaus better, and will rewatch Klaus many more times. But I think this is a far superior movie to Mars Attacks: An Interview with a Vampire. And honestly, I've been reevaluating Interview with a Vampire lately, and let's just say it might not be staying where it is on the list.
Can't move it. You put it there.
Yeah, it's just like, does it have to stay where it was on the episode I watched? I don't know. But anyway, like, love Mars Attacks.
You should do a show on your 1 year anniversary of this show where you go back and reevaluate how you felt about each movie.
Well, our first episode, I think, was April of last year, so we're getting pretty close to the 1 year anniversary.
Really? Damn.
Or wait, maybe it was later than that, but
time is flying.
Yeah, I remember you guys started this.
Yeah.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah, we are coming up on a year. This was, I think, our 23rd movie?
Hell yeah.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously we had some time, we haven't been doing 16, it every single 20, week, but...
Yeah, 23rd.
We're averaging about every other week,
For the fact that we both work 2 full-time jobs, I also run a talent agency in the background, and then my own streaming. The fact that we get an episode out every other week on average...
It's pretty good.
Is pretty solid.
And we still got so many more movies that we need to watch because there's a lot of movies.
I just want to brag a little here. All the movies I've been a part of choosing or I have chosen. I want to point out
Yeah, because I mean Klaus is that movie surprised the hell out of me with how good it was.
It's my Christmas movie. It's the movie I watch every year for Christmas now.
It will be that for me from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of my rotation too.
But... it's one of the ones I try to, but yeah.
So Bon picked some good.
I know my good movie. I honestly, when I look at this list, I do pick what I know I'll like, but I'm I was honestly a little nervous about this one for you.
Really?
I was a little nervous because a lot of the times when I introduce this to new people or I try to talk about this movie, a lot of people have there's no one in the middle. It's either they love this movie, not in oh my god, it's this is so fun to watch. It's in a very powerful emotional way, or they hate this movie. I never meet anyone who's ever in the middle on it. So I get nervous bringing it to people because it's either going to be a very harsh reaction or a very good reaction.
Dre, did you
think I was kind of emotionally prepared.
Dre, you know me a bit better than Bon. Do you think were you expecting me to like it?
Oh yeah. I was not expecting you to dislike this movie. The only reason that in my head you could have disliked this movie is if you were so depressed from it.
That was my worry. That's usually why people don't like it, is because of how depressing it is, and a lot of people kind of put this under what you call emotional torture porn.
You call it, I think, misery porn?
Misery porn.
Porn, yeah. A lot of people are this is just the sake for being sad, or they think it's because it's anti, with the whole... By the way, this is not considered an anti-war movie. I wanted to correct you there.
Who are you correcting?
Said that. You.
Oh.
It's not an anti-war movie. The director has openly said it's not an anti-war movie. It was just supposed to be a narrative on 2 children surviving, because that's what the story was originally. You can...
I believe you. I'm not going to argue with this.
No, I'm saying you can yourself be
okay.
Yeah, no, just because I heard that and I'm nope, that's not it.
I both agree and disagree with it, because it's okay, it was not made explicitly with the intention of being against war, and thus case it is not a anti-war movie. However, it is a movie that accurately and devastatingly shows the negative effects of war, and that act in of itself is anti-war. Being honest and open about war, I think is the most anti-war thing you can do.
It's not modem noises. I'm trying... Sorry, this is activating a part of my autism right now, and we're going to be on here for another hour if I go on it. The reason why I'm very adamant to point out that this is not an anti-war movie is that, again, this is based on a true story. This is a semi-true story movie, and it was more so trying to show, the experiences of someone. And while, I was trying to say, the perception of the movie, you can perceive this as an anti-war movie. In itself is not anti-war. Well, so I don't call it an anti-war movie in that sense, to respect the author and the people who worked on it. But you can perceive it as anti-war because a lot of content in media can be perceived as anti-war or pro-war. It's more so the specifics. That's why I
think I understand what you're saying, but I'm still not sure. Like, I
perceive this as against war. Like, this is something that's against war, but you also have to, like, why I get specific about this, and this more the analytical side of my brain, is that Japan in itself is very much of the mindset about how this war went, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because it could cause problems on your channel. Yeah. But Japan, there's a lot of details about how Japanese people view World War II that this would make it not an anti-war film at its core, even if I see it as something that's against what happened.
But that's not what we're here to discuss. We've already discussed the movie.
But I actually would like to discuss this with you maybe in deeper detail, because I think it's a very interesting conversation, and
It is an interesting conversation. I want to make it clear. I agree that this is an anti-war movie in perception, but the intent of this movie was not anti-war.
Well, that's one of the weird things about art, is that art is
how you perceive it.
Very often perceived in significantly different ways than the artist's intent and goals, and even cultural, like, like, it's kind of, especially when the whole cross culture thing, a piece of art made by a Mongolian artist is going to have a completely different meaning for me than it would for somebody from the culture of the artist. Yeah.
It's all how you digest the content.
Yeah. God, I love talking with you guys. I'm glad I have smart friends.
I just know how to talk good sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone thinks I'm smart.
Bon, you're smart.
It was a joke. It's a joke.
Anyway, we're gonna call this an
episode. We're gonna call this a wrap.
I apologize for giving you the most depressing Twigs missing movie to date.
To date. Yep. There's a few to make this god awful. Make this god awful.
Oh. So I'm just looking for somebody to raid right now. I think I might raid Kinnear, because Kinnear was at TwigCon. So.
Good guy.
Yeah. For those of you who might not know, Kinnear is married to Usu, who is a channel regular. So we're gonna Kinnear Fig. Sometimes it's Fig. Yeah. Anyway, we're heading on that way. So before we go, anything? I mean, obviously, follow Bon. If you're watching, I wonder if there's anybody watching this live right now who isn't already following Bon. If you are one of those people, go follow Bon. And also watch Bon and Dre and Kraka do their streams every Sunday morning. But anything else you want to plug, Bon?
I was just regular streaming. I sometimes do art too with Dre.
We love that art.
We're doing that this weekend. My first art stream on my new PC, so I'm excited. But yeah. I promise I won't play too much Monster Hunter on my channel this week.
Hey,
I don't make such promises.
Do it,
You've already made your schedule. You have.
Do what's fun and makes you happy. That's what I say.
Anime girls.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. We don't need outro music.
No, we don't. We can just meow.